Continuing on, we're going to create a menu icon right here. We're on tablet, so we're just going to have a simple menu icon in this section. So let's right click, we use Iconify, and we can type in menu. And let's say, for instance, we want to use, let's see here. Let's use this one right here. All right, so we're going to bring this in. Let's remember to use, we can use our rollers to get this situated here, but let's make it larger first. And Shift R. And we'll get a good general idea. We can come here in the middle and then simply place this right here. We might want to make that just a bit larger. Right there. All right, Shift R to get rid of that. Now I'm a little bit frustrated because I made that just a tad bit larger than what I wanted to. I think right there is a little bit better. That's, I believe the size is 42 by 42. And you know what? Here I go again. This is the one of the problems of being a designer and a perfectionist. Okay, I like that. It's 56 by 56. Perfect. Now, continuing on, the menu is an asset is what I would consider that. So we can add that to our asset section. And what we'll do is just copy this and we'll delete it out and we'll come back to our assets and we'll paste this in right here. And now we can create a new section outside of logo and perhaps call this one icons. All right, so we'll copy this. And by the way, I'm just holding Alt and Shift to replicate that and just dragging down with the left mouse button. We'll call this menu right there. Now you might want to right align these. There we go. So everything's pretty even up. Okay, so that right there is good. Let's go ahead and create a component out of that and we'll call this menu. Great, so now we can go back to our design and drag an instance of the menu exactly where we need it to be, which is right there. All right, great. So now what we'll do is we're going to create the headline. And of course the headline will entail typography. And so we'll create a new page as a part of our design system called typography when we build this out. So let's go ahead and left click. And I'm going to put in, it's a fantastic day to start designing. All right, so we're gonna drag this out here. And we're gonna make this somewhere, I believe I wanna use around 64 or so. And maybe I'll make this a little bit, there we go. All right, and so I'm also gonna adjust the leading right here, which is the line height. Let's do 125% for that. And let's also use our primary color, which is right here. Great. All right, so for this section right here, let's go ahead and create the typography section of our design system. So for typography, let's head back to assets and we'll just copy this frame right here. We're just going to paste that in just so we have our little labeling system set up. We'll name this typography. And let's get rid of this stuff beneath it. And let's change this to H1 for our heading 1. And let's just move this over here. And now what we'll do is we're going to go back to our design and we're going to notice we have this option here, just as we do with colors, to add all the different typography settings to our library here. So what we'll do is click plus, and we'll go ahead and name this headline H1. We can create style. All right. And then we can come back to our typography, and rather we can come over here and then copy that, and we can paste this in, and we can just rename this to headline. All right, and then we come down here, let's just click this right here, auto width. That's our headings, our headline size. We can also show it in other sizes as well. So we have our H1, we'll have an H2. Now we're gonna have to break this, or detach the style rather, and we can choose a size for any H2 elements. Now we don't have to define it here, but we do eventually have to define it if we actually end up using it. So for this one, we'll go ahead and use, I'm gonna look at my reference really quickly, a font size of 48. So 48 here. All right, and just so we can kind of get an idea of what it looks like in the multi-line, we can make the determination if we want to adjust the leading or any other properties. For now, I'm just going to leave this exactly as is. All right, and then we'll go ahead and add this to our library. So we're going to hit plus, headline, H2. We'll create that. We'll do this one more time, and this is going to be H3. And for the size, that what we're going to use there is going to be 34 pixels. So we'll detach that, 34, add it to our styles. All right, and we'll make sure these are all evened up. All right, so that's good. You can keep on going on and on as necessary and whatever's as needed for your design system. So we're gonna have other areas of our design system, specifically the topography section, that we'll add to naturally. So now let's continue on, Shift F4, get rid of that section, with creating a subheadline down here. All right, so for the subheadline, let's go ahead and detach that type style. And we're going to put in start your career as a UI UX designer in just 6 months. All right. So now that we've detached that, we can go ahead and choose a size that works well currently as a sub headline. For me, it's probably going to be maybe just a little bit larger, maybe around 26. Yeah, I think that's pretty good right there. So what we can do is, once again, we'll add this as a type style, and we'll click plus, and we'll just call this sub headline. We'll create that style. We'll copy that, and let us Shift Alt and drag over this section. We'll call this sub headline. And under there, we'll paste this. There we go. That's lined up pretty decently. And then we may also have another section, for instance, like a paragraph. Like what does the paragraph text look like? And we can keep on adding as necessary. Now for a final area, as a part of this video, we're going to do a button. So a button obviously entails a little bit different considerations for our design system. It's as we're going to consider that a component, and it's a part of the asset section. So let's create the button real quick. Rectangle. Just going to get a general shape, which we will adjust. And one thing I do for the color, we want to use our primary color, but we want it to be brighter. So what we'll do is we will first grab this background color, and we're simply going to create a brighter version somewhere, probably right around here. You don't want to go too bright, and if you did, you'd have to use dark text. But if we come down here, maybe make it around a little bit darker, we can use white text, and we can add a certain amount of gray, or tone it rather. And a lot of this is subjective design decisions at this point, but once you make them, we're going to add them to the design system. So I think right there is pretty good. That's 35BA91. We'll click plus, oops, we'll click this over here rather, and then click plus. And We're going to name this color primary, and we'll call this, I think we'll just call this one neutral. So right there is good. All right, now what we'll do is we'll go back to here, we're going to add a new section called colors. All right, so for colors, again, we're going to grab one of our existing frames here. We'll go back to colors, and we'll name this colors up here. And we're going to call this primary right here. And let's drag out a rectangle. And this is where we will start to add, for our fill, some of the existing colors that we've created. So right here is neutral. And there's different ways that you can present these. You can show the color hex code on top of them. You can, or you could put the name of this particular color, which would be helpful. So what we can do is we'll take this, right click and bring to front. We'll make this white. And what is the name of this? It's primary color neutral. We can make this smaller, like around 16, and put this right here in this section, and I think that looks good. And then we can start adding to this. For instance, we can go darker. So what we can do is we can take this, let's just duplicate the whole thing, bring this down, and this one we can change to dark. Now this is obviously very dark, so we name this one darkest. But we can start to add either in between, if we have shades in between it, more of these colored blocks based on our primary color. Because remember, these are all the same exact hue. When we click on these, you'll see that the hue slider is in the same exact spot. They're just different lightnesses, essentially. All right, so continuing on with our design, let's create our button. So for our button type, we're going to just type in here, learn more, and the size of the type in relation to this type up here is important to consider. So let's do, for now, what size is this? So if we click over here, there's two ways to check like your sizes based on elements that have colors and other settings specified from your library, because right now you don't see any of the stats. One way is to click this, right click, edit style, and it will tell you the information down here. But then there's also the inspect. So the inspect button will show you, the various properties and their values over here. All right, so the size of this is 26, so we could use 26 for that as well. And if I change this to 26, now they're consistent. Now this button looks pretty large. Might want to make it a little bit smaller. And I'm also going to create a iteration where we have an icon with it. So let's create our own icon with the arrow tool. And we'll put it right here, and we'll make it white. And that looks pretty good right there. The size is 2, maybe, or 3. Maybe we want to change it to 2. I think I like that better. And let's also add some border radius. Maybe just very subtle at 4. All right, so here's our button. What we want to do is take everything and we'll auto layout and then change the alignment here to center. And now if we adjust this, it's working very well. That way it's a flexible component that can be reused easily in different situations throughout the design. So this is our first button, and what we'll do is just copy it, and we're going to delete it and come over to our assets. And so in our assets panel, we're going to create a new section. First, I'll go ahead and paste that. And this new section we will call buttons. All right, and Right now we don't need a label for these necessarily, so we'll just go ahead and remove those. And what I'll do is drag this down to give ourselves some more room. And now assuming this were a real project, we would want to have variants of our button for a hover state and possibly a focus state, or also variants for whether or not this button should include an actual icon or an icon location. So you can have a lot of different areas in which to adjust this. So what we can do is we'll go ahead and create a component out of it, and then we'll go ahead and add variants. All right, so let's do a hover state with this. So this would be a default state, and this one will be our hover state. So for our hover state, we're gonna go ahead and change the color. Now, one thing I'm kind of forgetting, if we created, or used rather, a primary color neutral. Okay, we did. I just wanted to make sure that we used something from our library. So now when we double click on this one, we can see it says primary color neutral. Let's go ahead and break that, and we'll go ahead and adjust the color so maybe it gets a little bit lighter, but not much on hover. So that's the only thing that's going to change about that. Now what we could do with this new value, we can go ahead and add that to our color styles. So primary color, and we'll just choose this light. We'll hit create style, and there we go. So now if we go back to our colors, we can add that, and we'll come down and let's just change the size of this. All right, and this will be primary color light, and let's go ahead and change it. There we go. As you can see, it's starting to build itself out. Now let's go back to our assets, and so this is our default button right here. So if we double click into here, we have a property of default, and then we can change this one to hover. All right, so let's say for instance, we also want to create a version without an icon. Completely do that very easily. So we'll take this and we're gonna duplicate it. Let's drag this out, and we'll show these things or these differences in columns next to each other. So this is with an icon. This one's going to be without an icon, and look how easy that is. Now, when we do that though, we have to come out here and select our actual variant bounding box, and we're going to click over here and add new property. So the property name will be icon. So an icon, we'll take this one right here, we're gonna put in false. Oh wait, I'm sorry. This one's actually going to be true because there's an icon there, and this is going to be true as well. This one will be false. Now what we can do is take this and duplicate it, put it down here. Icon is false, except this time this is going to be hover. And make sure we change our hover color right there. And just to get a little bit more practice with this, we can do another variation. We can replicate this. This one, if we double click our icon, we can just move it over here, and this will be an icon that's situated to the left. So that's another variant that we can create, and it just makes your design system that much more robust and flexible. So what we'll do is we'll come out here, we're gonna add a new property, and we'll name this icon alignment. All right, and so for this one, we'll go ahead and change this icon alignment here to right. This will be right as well. This one will be left right here. Okay, great. So now that we have that, and we come out here back to our design, we can come back to assets, we can add this right here, and then if we wish, we can change different things like left. We could toggle this on and off, and it is really flexible.